slowly and carefully, so as to not attract attention. The little man moved toward the two keepers and motioned them to a dark section of the caves, where they began to speak in hushed tones about this unexpected turn of events. Safety and comfort was suddenly an illusion that had been intruded upon once again by the reality of evil's presence in this sanctuary. Charlie watched as his friend Franklin spoke to Vincent while glancing back in his direction with troubled expressions. They all now realized what was going on here, and it was disturbing that it happened right under their noses. It was pretty obvious at this point that they were sharing this space with about 25 dead people. These dead people were roaming around the room, mingling with the living refugees and doing a pretty good job of it too. It had taken the keepers a few days to notice the differences that separated them from their companions. It was the slow but noticeable decay of the bodies that was beginning to give them away. The changes were showing in the small way the arms and legs were losing their basic functions. The skin on the bodies was slowly rotting, as evidenced by the way it was peeling in spots, while other areas were discolored and soft-looking. They did not smell yet, but he was sure that it was only a matter of time before that too began to occur. What were they doing here? They had been certain that the doorways were protected and the bad things were not allowed to move through, but all three men were very aware that whatever was housed in the bodies of these Americans was not good. It was disturbing to note that all this was happening right in front of them. Something evil had slipped in where it should not be, slyly hiding amid the others as if waiting, learning all they could about those they moved among before making a move to destroy them. Charlie was ashamed that he had not noticed the dead ones earlier. He thought he had gotten to know all the Americans very well, and he was embarrassed that any of them could have changed so much without his detecting it. He used to know all kinds of things before they happened. There was no evil that walked the worlds he couldn't identify, until now. All those years he had been part of the protection forces in Sharin, controlling what was allowed through the different dimensions, and now he couldn't stop a force he should have been able to recognize immediately. He sighed heavily, realizing that this was yet another sign that his time, like that of all his peers, was coming to an end. He was terrified at this turn of events, not exactly for himself. He would have gladly fought the enemy until his death, just like his people had. But these good people didn't deserve to die out. The enemy could not be allowed to destroy the last of this truly remarkable civilization. He had watched all the worlds from a distance, but these people, he had more than watched passively. He had interacted with them. They had given him trust and respect, and he would miss this feeling of belonging when he was gone. It would only be a matter of time before he was, and he knew it. He had spoken with the 5 dead ones from time to time and had failed to detect anything different about them. It was almost as if they were not even aware that there was something different about themselves. He had sensed real living souls in those bodies, and they were good ones, not evil, but it had been like a switch had been flipped, and then the good things were suddenly gone. All goodness had left them, and it wasn't until then that he sensed their absence. It had been replaced with the confusion of things that were not familiar with the equipment they now occupied and were having a difficult time operating the bodies. Charlie knew now that they had been able to avoid detection because the original owners of the bodies had hung around for a while, For some reason the good souls were totally oblivious to their own non-living status, hanging around out of sheer habit, because they didn't have the slightest idea how to let go of their fleshy homes. They had given the dead things enough clues as to how to blend for a while. When they were forced to face their own extinction, they left a huge void their deceased hitchhikers could not fill.